what is up, Gamecock Nation? Welcome in. Tuesday episode of the show. We are counting down the days. Y'all counting down the days to football and counting down the days to this Gamecock Central kickoff party right around the corner, August 20th at Still Hands Brewing, KC, South Carolina. As you see right there on your screen already, we got a special guest joining us here today. It is Brad Ansley. Brad, so we're going to talk a ton about the kickoff party today, man. Want to tell everybody a little bit about what you do, how you got involved with it, how they can get involved as well. And of course, man, we want to let everybody know about the 1801 Venture Club, the fact that the 1801 Venture Club is our premier presenting sponsor this year of the Gamecock Central Kickoff Party. So we're going to talk all about that coming forward. But first of all, Brad, how are you, man? You staying busy, and are you ready for Saturday?
Yes. Thank you, Wes. Thank you, Chris, for having me. Definitely staying busy, and we're pumped about this weekend. I mean, some of the news coming out, some of the special guests. I'm getting more and more excited thinking about Saturday.
Yeah, so Brad, we teased everybody a little bit yesterday because we got the news of our certainly our tallest guest, and I would say maybe our biggest guest, our biggest known guest right now. For those who missed it, if you didn't see our social media yesterday, GG Jackson, the latest addition to the South Carolina current athletes who will be at the South Carolina or the Gamecock Central Kickoff Party on Saturday. He'll be in the VIP section. If you have one of those VIP tickets, very few tickets left, y'all. So go ahead, go to Eventbrite, search for Gamecock Central Kickoff Party, purchase one of the final tickets if you want to meet GG Jackson. But Brad, man, that's the fact Garnet Trust was able to pull this off for us. Major win for us. I'll just say it. Huge win for everybody involved in this kickoff party.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge. And not to mention just the rest of the lineup of guests and everyone who's going to be there. I mean, it's going to be a good time for sure. It's like the GG Jackson news and everything else around the football program. There's a lot of excitement just around University of South Carolina right now. So that's why I'm super excited to be a part of the event this weekend.
Brad, we're going to dive into 1801 Venture Club, like Wes said, and what it's all about. Super cool. We have really enjoyed getting to learn about it, the goals, what it's all about. Really unique thing, in my opinion. But give us a little bit of your background. I think what we found on the Gamecock Central end is we have a lot of partners like Clint Hammond, for example, of Mortgage Network, who are Gamecock fans and Gamecock Central subscribers, and people like being associated and doing business with people like that. So you have a kind of a similar background. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I graduated from University of South Carolina, and pretty soon after that, I moved to Atlanta to work for a startup company called Sales Loft, where I learned a ton, and it was a really awesome experience. And something that I've been thinking through a lot more is, how do I help create more experiences like that, and just more ability for success stories coming out of the University of South Carolina. And that's really sort of what the 1801 Venture Club is really centered around. It's a business network for Gamecocks to help other Gamecocks succeed. And if we're being totally honest, all things being equal, if we're going to do any kind of business, we would rather choose to do it with other Gamecocks. So that's our goal, is to create an environment and a platform for people to be able to do that, whether you're Gamecock alumni, supporter, student, whatever.
And so for those of you who didn't notice it, I just sent out that link. So whether you're watching us on Facebook, YouTube, wherever you're catching the show right now, you can click that link and automatically be taken over there. But if you're listening in the podcast version of the show later on, it is 1801vc.com. You can find all the information that you could ever want about 1801 Venture Club. And so one of the things that just caught my attention perusing the website the very first time that we ever talked about all this, Brad, was some of the goals for 1801 Venture Club. So obviously, if you're a business and you want to do business with and find other Gamecocks to do business with, this is going to be an excellent avenue for you to do so. But part of the real value to me and what you're trying to do is the opportunity to give back, be that via scholarships, internships. What is the impact as far as the goals go, that we're ultimately hoping the Venture Club could be directly for the University of South Carolina students.
Yeah, and that's part of the unique way that we're setting this up and thinking about this is we want to make sure that we can have a significant impact back on the university and create really a flywheel of opportunity that the members of this club can participate in as well. So the idea is that our model is a little bit different. It's just a one-time fee to join, and then you're a member forever. But those fees go towards programming and impact that we want to make on the university. So we want to do $6 million in funding for scholarships, for internship programs, and also for just entrepreneurial programming, encouraging more people to really get the support they need to start their own business, and really, just support other Carolina businesses as well.
I'm sure you have some ideas, and I think last time we talked about this off air, so to speak, we're still working through some of those things, but any ideas on, what type of scholarships, what types of programs, what types of internships? You also mentioned some investment opportunities within the platform. That's a little bit separate, but can you peel back the curtain a little bit on maybe what some of your ideas are there?
Yeah. And so in those three buckets, the way we're thinking about it is part of that's going to be to endow 10 scholarships for entrepreneurial students who want to go and take that path of starting their own business, which is just typically not the path that a lot of people take right out of school, right? And then in terms of internships, one of the things we want to do is actually fund internships for students. So for businesses who maybe are still in those early stages of getting off the ground, but could really use some help, we want to actually use some of these funds to pay for those internships. And I think that's great exposure for students as well at some of those more early growth stage type opportunities for internships. And then a lot of the funding is going to go towards these entrepreneurial programs that the university does a great job of already. We've got a ton of programs in place, but the idea is to really expand those out, make sure that there's really solid funding and incentives for students to take part in those programs. And then hopefully when they're successful and launch their businesses, the members of this club will have the opportunity to participate, mentor, invest in those businesses that come out of those programs.
So Brad, let's talk about the kickoff party a little bit more itself. First of all, you reached out to us, so I'd like to know why these Gamecock fans, like why did you initially think this is a great fit? Because obviously we got to talking and we all realized there's a lot of alignment, not just for this Saturday, but long term. An opportunity for you to connect with some Gamecock Central subscribers out there, connect with the Gamecock fans, hopefully from all around the state, maybe even some out of state folks as well. But what attracted you to the kickoff party, and what does 1801 Venture Club want people to know when they leave this party on Saturday? What do you want them to take away?
Yeah, so it's funny. I literally just saw a tweet, about the party and some of the early stages, and I was like looking into it a little bit more, and I was like, wow, that sounds like a really good fit with some good folks that I think would be a lot of fun to work with. And part of it was I love Steel Hands and their beer, which was definitely a plus. I'm a big fan of Hayden Hurst and the Hayden Hurst Foundation and everything that his organization does. And then also just the opportunity to work with Gamecock Central and get the word out about what we're building. I think there's a lot of alignment because, one, like we talked about, it's exciting times in Carolina sports, right? There's a lot of really, really cool things going on that I know we're all excited about. And I think we're at an interesting stage where there's a lot of crossover between that and entrepreneurship and business. I mean, if you think about it, just about every athlete now is an entrepreneur. And so there's a lot of really cool things and stories that we can tell there that I'm excited about as well.
And by the way, another exciting announcement regarding the party is that Steel Hands has informed us as of today that $1 of every pour at the event will be donated back to the Hayden Hurst Foundation, which is super cool. Another philanthropic thing. Obviously, Brad, you guys are looking to do something very similar ultimately for the university with $6 million goal impact. All right, back to a little bit more about the platform because I'm just really curious about it.
Yeah.
When members join in, you mentioned they have a one-time fee. They're members for life. I know spots are limited, just like VIP tickets to the preseason kickoff party. But when they get into the platform, what are some of the benefits? I know you mentioned a job board to me. Break that down for us.
Yeah, and to your point, the $6 million impact and limited membership, it's early days. We're really just getting started and trying to build the core of this community to work towards those goals. And so what's cool is that we have the platform and the technology already built out to support that. And some of the things that you can do just right off the bat are, it's a really great place to just network with other Gamecocks, seek out mentorship, ask for advice, connect with people, make those connections that you wouldn't necessarily be able to make otherwise. Now, we're all going to be in Columbia on Saturday, but there's a lot of Carolina fans and Gamecocks spread across the nation who this is a really cool place for them to be able to connect. And the other piece of it too is, like you mentioned, the opportunity to not only list jobs, but to search through jobs, to discover companies. For companies, it's a great place to actually, find customers who share some of your experiences and values as Gamecock fans. So it's, to put it real simply, you could almost think of it as like a very private, built for Gamecocks version of LinkedIn with some additional investment and networking capabilities built into that.
Brad, so the obvious here, if I'm a Gamecock fan, I'm listening to us right now or watching us, I'm intrigued. I'm going to check out the website. How, quite literally, walk us through it. How would I want to get signed up? How would I want to jump in? And what do you think sort of the first thing I need to know if I'm diving into this thing? What's the first thing I need to look for when I sign up?
Yeah, so it'll walk you through the process step by step if you go to the website, and we try to make the payment process as easy as possible. But when you go into the website, the first thing you'll see is just the community newsfeed, where you'll have just automatically a welcome post, hopefully some people welcoming you in there. But you can go and look through the other members and actually reach out to them and see, if there's anyone that you want to make connections with. And as we start to build this out, you're going to see a lot more in terms of opportunities, in terms of job opportunities and things like that just built in. But right now you can kind of just go poke around and explore not only the companies that are in the platform already, but the functionality that we're building for this community.
Sounds super cool. All right, Brad. So let's take it back to football a little bit, shall we? What games are you coming to this year? Because I know when we get to the party, we're going to talk about 1801 Venture Club. You guys are going to have a prime spot for those coming to the party, whether you're VIP, which we hope you are, or you're not, because again, it is a free event. You will see 1801 Venture Club and Brad's smiling face there the entire day and night. But tell us, when else are we going to see you in Columbia? What games are you excited about? When are you coming back?
So, I think there's one pretty early date that we've all got circled on our calendars when the Dogs roll into town.
There you go.
That's going to be the first one that I'm going to make it up to. I'm kind of like the Arkansas game in Fayetteville. That's a really fun early game too. I don't think I'm making the trip this year, but I'm excited for that. But yeah, when Georgia's in town, for sure, that's going to be the first one, and I'm excited about that.
Yeah, and Chris, you said if people come to the party. Here's the thing. I'm going to be very disappointed in everybody on here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If you're in town, if you're available, and you don't come say what's up to us, I will be personally hurt because, I want everybody to buy tickets, but here's the thing. You don't have to buy tickets to come. You can go experience the on-stage portion of the event completely free. Now, you're going to have to buy some food and you're going to have to buy some drinks. If you're at Still Hands, that's the rules. But here's the thing. You can come out for free and you can see all of us. You can say what's up. We can talk about this season. And I'm going to take it personal if y'all don't show up. So be there. It is this Saturday at Still Hands. We sort of kick off 1 o'clock is the pregame, but it's going to be going all afternoon. On stage portion at 4 o'clock. Patrick Davis on stage later in the night. Great performer. He's a Gamecock. He's from Camden, South Carolina. Brad, what are you most looking forward to for Saturday?
I'm kind of I'm looking forward to maybe the surprise appearances. The people that we don't know exactly who's going to show up, because this is going to. I don't know where else you would really want to be on Saturday. So I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of really cool folks that I'm excited to meet that I'll be keeping an eye out for sure.
Well, we ended yesterday's show with a massive tease that ended up being the GG Jackson news. Will there be another? Will I get another text in the middle of the show with another announcement? I don't know. You never know.
The week is young.
The week is young.
We got a little time.
The beauty of the surprises is sometimes we don't even know.
That's right.
If they're actually going to show up until about 10 minutes until they do show up. So we're some of this stuff, we're in it together, y'all. So you never know what's going to happen on Saturday.
I'm also excited to see y'all as well.
Thank you. Well,
Thank you,
I thought that was understood, but
just to be clear.
Just to be clear, Brad, before we let you run, I know you got a lot to do. I want to mention a little mini contest that you've got going on right now on the 1801 Venture Club Twitter page. You were actually giving away some VIP tickets, right? Tell us about that.
Yeah. So and I'll have to check when we get off. We originally said 10. I don't think we have 10 left in terms of new members of 1801 Venture Club that just want to come and get a free VIP ticket to the event. But we can safely say the next 5 people who join and want to come to the event and partake in some of the VIP festivities definitely can make that happen. So let me know too, and reach out to me, and we'll make it work.
And then you would get to hang out with Brad, with Wes, myself, if that might not be a benefit to people, but maybe for some it would. GG Jackson, surprises, as Brad alluded to. So that'll be a lot of fun. Brad, tell us your Twitter handle for the people.
It is Ansley Brad.
And the 1801 Venture Club.
Yeah. Twitter. You can follow that there as well at 1801 Venture Club, and then 1801vc.com.
Awesome
stuff. Man, great stuff. We're looking forward to Saturday. We'll let you get back to it. But thanks for taking the time. And for those of you who maybe caught part of it, you can always go back, catch the beginning. But if you have other questions, just go to the graphic right there, 1801vc.com. Anything that caught your attention, but maybe you didn't quite get the full picture of, that website will take you through all of it. And maybe it's a new concept for you, but I think there's a lot of Gamecock business owners or future hopeful business owners that could get a lot out of this. So y'all go check it out. Brad, we'll see you very soon, man. We're definitely looking forward to it, okay?
Thanks, guys. See you soon.
Yeah, have a good one, man. That is Brad Ansley. Looking forward to this Gamecock Central kickoff party on Saturday. Chris, somebody, J-Dub, shout out J-Dub YouTube. He said the way the weather feels, I can feel football in the air. There's been a little hint of fall.
Oh yeah,
in the air lately. Have y'all noticed that the Columbia heat not quite beating down on you? It's still hot some days, but there's this hint of fall in the air. You can feel
it. This morning, I would go farther west. This morning was more than a hint. It was a full-fledged preview this morning. Now it is cloudy, a little bit of rain, but it felt awesome. Smelled like football, felt like football. Got me more excited about it.
It's fun. I'm excited, y'all. Be there at the party. Again, I know we're selling you on this, but seriously, you don't have to buy a ticket if you want to just come out for free, enjoy some music, some on-stage production, if you will, hear some stories. It's going to be great. If you came out last year, hopefully you enjoyed it. Even if you didn't come out last year, hopefully you had some FOMO and were like, man, I need to get there this year. Last year we had a surprise appearance from the head man himself, Shane Beamer. So you really never know who's going to show up at the kickoff party. And speaking of Shane Beamer, I did want to mention this, Chris. I thought this was an excellent example of not just Shane Beamer, but Shane and Emily Beamer doing good things in the community. The Beamer Family Foundation has partnered with 4 Richland 2 elementary schools they announced this, I believe, they announced it earlier, but then they announced they were having a press conference earlier this week. And so administration at Joseph Kills Elementary School reached out to football player development department for mentorship and community support. And with that need, Shane Beamer and Emily, his wife, of course, are providing resources for those 4 Title I schools. The goal is to help make an impact in academia around the theme, You Can. So those schools are going to receive 100 backpacks for homeless students. That's 25 per school. Gift cards for resource officers, teacher supply tub, USC student volunteers throughout the year. Let's see, there's going to be a teacher back to school luncheon, back to school video from Carolina football players, on and on and on. Opportunity to go to some games for some folks. Really cool thing. I know y'all tune in to talk about football or hear about football, but I think this was something highly worth mentioning. And there'll be some video from Beamer, from Shane and Emily Beamer, posted on Gamecock Central here shortly, because that press conference actually is going on right now as we speak, Chris.
Yeah, and I think this is just another example of Shane Beamer and Emily Beamer, wanting to put down roots in South Carolina. In the course, Wes, of reporting that series, that we have going on Gamecock Central right now, looking back at the coaching search, that was something that, really stood out to South Carolina's administration when talking with Shane Beamer, is just he wanted this job, not because it was an SEC job, but when he can sit there and say, I've been in Columbia before as an assistant, obviously spent 2007 to 2010 under Steve Spurrier in Columbia, had, I think, 1 or 2 children born in the state of South Carolina, right? Beamer himself spent time in South Carolina. And so this is like a home to them, and they always wanted to come back. And so I think when it's just another example of Shane Beamer, talking about culture and family and things of that nature. And this is kind of a put your money where your mouth is type of thing. So cool thing, a really cool cause as well. And yeah, like you said, man, we'll have some more on that here shortly. Colin Taylor manning the press conference over there as we speak.
Yeah, be sure to check that out, GamecockCentral.com. Chris, I put in the header for this episode that we're going to talk a bit about the offensive players who spoke to the media yesterday. We went into that a bit on Monday already. Just some of the headlines, some of the big news, just updates on injuries. Marshawn Lloyd spoke, briefly about his foot / small, just tweak of his foot, I guess you would say. But I went back and was going through some of the videos last night, after the show. And there's a few more things I thought were worth hitting on. And I did an article today that hopefully everybody will go check out, called 3 Takeaways. And it's kind of like, all right, let's take these press conferences and let's tell people give them some context to what they're hearing. And maybe here's what you need to know from these press conferences. And man, to carry over from something we've talked about on the 107.5 show, Juju McDowell is, this is a kid that came in as a true freshman last year, obviously made an immediate impact. Everybody knows what he can do on the field. But I would encourage every Gamecock fan listening, watching, whichever, go to YouTube, type in Juju McDowell, watch the video from Monday. And it is impossible not to like this guy. Like, you will pull for him. Like, there are certain people, I feel like even if you're a fan of a different team, he's so likable. Like, I think Juju McDowell is going to be one of those guys we look back on, not just for impact on the field, but for immersing himself like within the fabric of this program and community and school. So go listen to Juju, man. Like, I can't be more impressed with this kid.
Yeah, you go and look, Wes, I was actually reading your story before we hopped on here. Good stuff, by the way. And, you've got the video link there of Juju, and literally the screen cap, the thumbnail is him smiling, of course. It's hard to not catch him with the smile on his face. And the guy he's loving life. He loves playing football. Like, we saw some of that on last week's, ESPN special that they were doing. Juju had some runs there, and he's hooping and hollering and having a great time. I always think back, West, to the touchdown that he scored on the direct snap against Florida last year. Super fired up about that. Went and told – that was a cool thing. I mean, went and told Marcus Satterfield, the offensive coordinator, that if he needs him to play center, he'll go play it. So, I mean, he's a team-first guy. He's a really talented guy that, needs to see the football more. There's a few guys on the team that fall into that category, but Juju's one of them. So definitely, I think, a fan favorite type of guy.
Yeah, and man, so like you said, the comment about I told Sat I'll play center if I need to. The fact that he is one of the smallest guys on the team, but puts as much effort, and values blocking as much as anybody on the team. Loves to put his head in there and help him pass pro. Essentially is willing to kind of do whatever it takes. And I think the reaction when he was asked about his pass pro just improvements, when he heard that Eric Douglas was bragging on him in the video, and he kind of like paused. He said, "E-Doug said that?" And it was just like such a wholesome, genuine, like, my guy said that about me.
Yeah.
Like, it's a compliment, It's like, okay, that's cool. Spencer Rattler said he had the best energy on the team. Even when he was talking about special teams, and he was like, I let the team down last year on special teams. And I'm sitting there like, dude, you saved the ECU game with that kickoff return late on special teams. And I'm sure there's little details that we would never notice that he's specifically referring to, but the connection he has with McCoy Petty and exchanging email addresses so they can stay in touch. Juju himself, someone who has gone through tragic loss in his life. Really good story from Brad Mueller with South Carolina, who sort of put into words that story or did a good job of putting focus on that, I should say. But yeah, I know I'm going on and on right now, but Juju, got to pull for this kid, man. I think he's going to be one of those guys that just always makes an impact just in different ways. I think he's clearly not the number one back, but he's one of their top guys as far as being able to make some plays for them, I think. Yeah,
and he just has a great heart. I mean, really good football player. Really interested to see how he continues to progress in the offense. Talking to Martario Hardesty at the media day recently, it was pretty obvious that Marshawn Lloyd kind of came into preseason camp as the number one guy, the starter if the season began in August. And, but Christian Beal-Smith and Juju were also going to pull down some first-team reps. So with what he can do and his unique skill set, he's a guy that's, I think, should and probably will, play a pretty significant role in this offense, this team, special teams, like you said. He always seems to gravitate towards kids. I know we were doing an interview with Chance Miller, the associate AD, the deputy AD at South Carolina, and he was talking about his son and how Juju, would always gravitate towards him too. So he's a big-hearted kid who loves football, and it's just really fun to watch him.
I thought it was interesting that the comment he made too, Chris, about how Marcus Satterfield, and I'm paraphrasing here, but essentially has been taking maybe a little more input from the players themselves on certain things, like, hey, what are you seeing here? What are you seeing there? I think he called him a player's coach, or he made it sound like there's been more input from the players this year, which I think was interesting. We kind of assume this offense structurally or schematically is going to be very similar to what they did last year. But I don't know if we've heard a ton about all the specific details about this offense and what tweaks are going to be made. How do you make it best fit Spencer Rattler? How do you make it best fit these new skill guys that you have to work with? So I thought that was interesting. That's maybe something that hasn't been talked about too much to this point, man.
Yeah, it's a good point. We know, as you alluded to, that South Carolina, with their offense, they're going to carry a substantial playbook into the season. Now, that doesn't mean they call all that, I do recall Shane Beamer at some point last season saying that, you had to reassess as they were struggling what you were doing. Maybe you simplify some different things. I remember Marcus Satterfield saying, hey, we're not doing anything too complex, especially in the run game. But fans looked and said, in media like us, looked and said, well, it's not working. So kind of what's going on? So you do anticipate some tweaks, just based on obviously your personnel. It's hard to argue this point has improved, which helps no matter what you run. But you go back and look at what didn't work last year, what you need to do better this year. Do you tweak? Do you simplify? Do you put in some new stuff? What do you take out? And I do think that is an undervalued storyline. I think a lot of the offseason attention has been stolen by things like, hey, Spencer Rattler, hey, these receivers, or will the offensive line be better? But schematics, obviously, still very important in there too. And Wes, one thing that, I think we've heard this, you've wrote this, Freddie Kitchens being on staff is something that I think plays probably a little bit of an undervalued role, or one that's at least not talked about quite as much as it should be.
Yeah, I think that was a huge addition to this program, man. Just having a guy with that experience, being able to bring just a different ideas in the room, I think is always valuable. It's always good. So I'll be very curious to see what he has brought, what has he brought to the QB room, the offense in general. And obviously, like you said, man, what do they tweak and what do they kind of bring back from last year? There was some good from last year. Like, let's not act like, just nothing worked, like, especially down the stretch. I think they started to find their identity a little bit more. And so we'll see how much of that comes through this year. I want to tell y'all real quick about our friends at Liberty Tax. Overcome your taxiety. 803-462-5576. Obviously, tax time is over, but if you own a business, or maybe you're starting a business, you want to know what your taxes may look like in the future, how any of this works, they can help walk you through that. Payroll services, maybe you owe money to the IRS, which, again, it's not great, but they'll help walk you through it. 803-462-5576. Deal with a local person here in the Midlands area, in Lexington, Irmo, or right in Columbia, South Carolina, as opposed to having to call and deal with a stranger. So again, our friends at Liberty Tax, shout out to Larry, big Gamecock fan. Like we were talking about the 1801 Venture Club, you want to support Gamecocks, support people who support the Gamecocks. Great way to do that. Hit up our buddy Larry at Liberty Tax. And as always, hit up our buddy Clint Hammond, clinthammond.com, 803-771-6933. Chris, did you have any other takeaways from the offensive players speaking that we have not spoken on yet?
I didn't. I actually had a defensive thought, though. Well, I did. You know what? I wanted to go back in your 3 takeaways piece. Those were actually the ones that I wanted to talk about the most. I didn't have any offensive takeaways. I know we hit on some of them, right? Like yesterday's show, we hit on Eamon Warrior and DQ Smith. I know we hit on Luke Doty some. But going through and kind of rereading or re-listening to some of that stuff was pretty intriguing. It may be broken record stuff, but I wanted to cover it a little bit more. Luke Doty's emergence, important storyline, not only for now, but into the future, because you look at Spencer Rattler, you figure if things go well, 1 year for him, and then you look and say, what's the deal next season, right? I know we haven't made 2022 yet, so let's not get too far ahead, but having that clear number 2, which everybody assumed it's Doty, but now, Wes, it looks like he's really, really latched onto that. Like it is his. And then that's going to give him the best shot in the future. And then DQ Smith, I saw that you resurrected an old interview with Robin Bacon, DQ Smith's former high school coach. And I'd kind of forgotten some of the quotes. Foxhole guy.
That's right up there with football guy.
Well, I mean, when you're called, like, I imagine DQ Smith, if he was told, hey, your former coach called you a foxhole guy, like, would he have the Juju McDowell, Eric Douglas reaction? Right. Like, somebody called me a foxhole guy, I'd be like, I mean, that's something.
High praise. You got the QB leadership tendencies there, man. Here's the thing. Not every quarterback can make those transitions, obviously. But if a guy has the physical / athletic ability, I mean, I went and looked at the roster because I was like, what's this guy? What is DQ listed at? Listed at 6'1", 212. So SEC frame for that position already.
Mm-hmm.
So like, check that box. If they have the physical size and athleticism, quarterbacks tend to fit well when they have to play other positions. Now, sometimes it just does not work. But if they have the mindset to where they want to play the spot, and the quickness, all the other attributes, I gotta imagine, man, if you're a QB, you know what a safety is doing on a particular coverage. You know the total picture of cover 3, cover 2, cover 1, quarters. Like you kind of already have a baseline knowledge. Now you're looking at it almost like flipping it like a mirror from a quarterback's perspective, and now you're the guy dropping back at safety. I'm not saying it's easy by any means. It's impressive that he's done what he's done, but this could be one of those guys that kind of quickly we look back and we're just like, man, that was a very smart late take, especially when you consider the needs at safety.
Yeah, I mean, give me in a safety, smart, physical, with leadership qualities, and toughness. And he seems to have all those things, from what we saw in high school, from what we heard from high school. The question for him is just, kind of how quickly can you adjust when you take a guy that has not played defensive back since I think middle school, and you stick him in there and ask him to play defensive back and play it at a very high level. There can be a transition period, but I think because of those physical and mental traits that he does have, that lessens the learning curve. And we also know, Wes, that it really looks like, Clayton White, the way that their defense is structured, they let the guys go play, and so when you take a Nicky Manwari, who's got some off the charts measurables, and then you've got a DQ Smith who's got, checks the boxes plus some in some other categories, maybe different categories, but some other ones, those guys, maybe the learning curve is not quite as high as you would think for a freshman.
Yeah, man. So we'll be watching that. It's one of those things where he's a special teams guy at first, sort of slowly comes on later in the year. Is this a thing where they announce, they could put out the 2 deep week 1. Realistically, it could say Nicky Manwari and DQ Smith as the 2 backups. I mean, that's not far-fetched at all. This also, they were already doing this, Chris, but it kind of takes away some of the pressure of like an Anthony Rose to have to play safety. They played him there some of the spring, I think, and then transitioned him to corner. I think from kind of what I heard, I think it was kind of like corner was probably going to be a better fit for him. So it maybe allows you not to have to just force some guys, into that position. David Spalding, who played quite a bit, actually almost half the snaps last year at nickel, he said in his interview last week, he's been playing some safety. So ideally, you want guys coming in and stepping up. Not that it's ideal for them to be a freshman, but you'd rather play a guy that fits a position than having to just pull somebody from another spot and maybe they're not comfortable. And it's just not pretty. We've seen enough of that. So I agree, man, though, to your point about this defense and this defensive staff. They want their guys to play fast. They want their guys to be able to go out and feel comfortable in the scheme. I believe they even alluded to, hey, maybe this year we can do a bit more now that there's a baseline knowledge, understanding from these guys. But certainly last year when it was new, you didn't see guys standing around with their hands up. You didn't see guys looking to the sideline as the ball is snapped, running around. Every team will have that from time to time. But for the most part, it did not look like a defense of players that were in a scheme all for the first time, in my opinion.
Yep, no doubt. And that's, look, there's a lot. Did Carolina squeeze, I think, more out of the defense than we anticipated in many regards? Yes. But they also had some games where the defense struggled mightily. You think about Clemson, couldn't stop the run, Texas A&M, Tennessee. And we've talked about that many times. That's an area that's got to get better. But maybe that comes with year 2. Maybe that comes with being a little bit deeper at defensive tackle. guys have to emerge. Maybe you have a little bit more depth at linebacker and play better there, and that might help you. There's a lot there, right? And Nathan right there in the chat line making the comment, defense has to stop the run. It's a great point. Wes, one thing that I think, did we hit on this? Because we were discussing the secondary configuration the other day, and it has come to light that it looks like indeed Cam Smith has been playing a lot of nickel, which we knew. We knew that he was repping there, right? But have we discussed the fact that if it's Georgia State game 1, it may be Cam at nickel, Marcellus Dow, Darius Rush at corner?
We have not. Now I know, I think in the 11-on-11 we saw, they had Cam back outside and they had Marcellus at nickel at that point.
Yeah. And one thing that Torian Gray mentioned to me at the media day was that they might be in position to where they can play some matchups. So sometimes Cam is not the nickel. Sometimes he is the nickel. You kind of, obviously, you would think that you probably want Cam Smith on your best receiver when you can. And sometimes that's going to be your slot guy where the nickel's line. So.
Yeah, I think even here's the thing, even though Beamer is like he said when he was asked the question the other day, all 22 jobs are up for grabs. Like, the coaching, and he even laughed about it. Like, I mean, obviously some guys have probably earned their spots at this point, but if you're going to say we want competition, you have to let it play out like that. But even he seemed to admit, look, R.J. Roderick, Devontae Reed, Marcellus Dow, Darius Rush, and Cam Smith, in some configuration, if all are healthy, what would you say? 99.9999. Like, I never say anything's 100% anymore, but if they're healthy, those 5 are running out there against Georgia State, right?
Yeah, those are going to be the guys. Yep.
Period. Now, who's coming in next? That's when, if a safety comes out, if a nickelback comes out, if a corner, there's a lot of conversation there, I think. But hey, how about the way, there's another one of those tiny things. How about the way it was phrased talking about linebacker? He said, and I realize, man, there's so many, we hear so much and we're involved with so much now. I have to make sure like I didn't misremember this. Like, this was really said by Shane Beamer and not by one of us. I'm 94% sure that Shane Beamer said 3 guys competing for 2 spots at linebacker. And he was talking about Sherrod Green, Brad Johnson, and Mo Kaba. So we've talked about Mo. We've known Mo has been pushing. We've known Mo Kaba has been taking, it seems like, quite a few first-team reps. Interesting to me just to hear it phrased that way.
It is. And, you've got a couple of, the players use old heads and Brad Johnson and Sherrod Green.
Super seniors.
Think Joe Morrison recruited them. And so they have the experience advantage. Now, Brad Johnson, I mean, easy to forget, last season was his first real year playing will linebacker. And so that was an adjustment. He still played a ton of snaps. I think he really adjusted pretty well to that spot. And I think he served South Carolina really well in the pass rush game, on third downs where they would have him stay in. If the back stayed in for coverage, Brad would blitz. I think he proved to be quite an asset there. Sherrod obviously has had pretty substantial injury history, including, I think, second play of the Georgia game or so last year. He goes down, unfortunately, year-ending injury. And so you feel for him. But you would figure that those 2 guys, because of their experience level, have the upper hand. But Mo is someone that, I mean, remember his high school tape, Wes. I mean, this was a big physical kid. He had the ACL tear in high school that unfortunately took him, I think it's fair to say, and through no fault of his own, it just took longer than it does typically nowadays to come back from. But now he seems to really have gotten his feet under him, so to speak, and he could ultimately prove to be too good, to keep off the field.
And that's a good thing, in my opinion, because if you have a younger guy beat out a guy who was starting before, for one, again, Nathan's making some points today, man. We need to throw Nathan a prize or something. That means you have depth, and that's something they have lacked at linebacker. And two, it just means, hey, the guy who earned the starting spot last year, if he gets beat out, then that by default means you have upgraded because, that guy didn't get worse. So if you're getting beat out now, that means both your starting spot and your backup spot has now been upgraded quite a bit. So that would be cool for Carolina. That would also be cool for Mo Kaba. I know, like you just said, man, he's been through some stuff. And sometimes, even when you're healthy, you're not 100% as far as like the capacity to do what you were doing before. Most of y'all know I'm a huge Braves fan. Watching Ronald Acuna, one of the best athletes in baseball, one of the most talented athletes in baseball, he's come back from, a knee tear, and he's healthy in terms of he's able to play. He's not going to re-injure it, but it has not been the same. It sort of gets sore on him some days. They have to give him days off. You got to think a game as physical as football. Maybe you couldn't run. Maybe you're a little stiffer than you were before. But now, once you start to get like a full year and then 2 years, your body, especially young like Mo Kaba, most of the time your body, I think, can get back close to capacity, and that just may be what is happening here. And by all accounts, though, hard worker, man, good kid, does things the right way. We saw him. He dropped by the 107.5 office the other day. He's a physically impressive kid as well. That's maybe a little bit lost in translation, I think.
It is. And, just even looking back, small sample size in college, Wes, with what he's played on the field, but there have been some plays, kind of like Jordan Birch, where you go, oh, he can do that, and so big, physically imposing kid who can run and really can be physical. Athletically, you would have to think, just from a physical standpoint, out of those three, I think he's the most impressive physical, from a physical standpoint out of those guys. Now, that doesn't mean he's the best player, but just if he can put those things together, and I think that'll come with more and more reps. But you're right. It's a great point by Nathan or whoever made it. Nathan has made some great points. We need to throw him points like they do on that show on ESPN. What is it? Round the Horn or whatever.
Yeah, around the horn.
Be Tony Reale and throw him all the points. But, they've just lacked. It's been at least, I don't know, Wes, like a 2-year thing, maybe a 3-year thing, where the linebacker depth for South Carolina just hasn't been there. We went in the last season going, okay, they're not super deep. I remember talking to Clayton White before the season, and he says, you want to have 3 to 5 guys. And at that time, we thought that they had 3 to 4 because you had a young Mo Kaba who still probably wasn't quite ready. Debo Williams was in there too, but he was a freshman, So you go, okay, they've got Brad Johnson, they've got Sherrod, and they've got Damani Staley. Well, as it turns out, Sherrod gets hurt. And so now your top backup, has to play just about every snap, or in some cases, all snaps of the season. And that catches up to you, pull it like top 3, Wes, snap getters last year for South Carolina per PFF. Number 1, Jalen Foster, not surprising. Damani Staley is number 2, played 672 snaps. Brad Johnson right behind him was 656. Mo Kaba actually played a few more than I thought. He played 171. So that shows you kind of the cliff, between those guys. And then after that, Sherrod Green played 85, and he did that in 3 games. So a guy who played 3 games and did not play the rest of the season played the 4th most snaps on the team at linebacker. So will they have more of a true rotation? maybe so. And certainly if you get into some of those games like the Tennessee game or A&M where you're playing lots of defensive snaps, you need to have the ability to do that.
Definitely, man. And it felt like Kaba, they tried to rotate him back in there at times. And as the year went on, I remember like paying attention to that. Do they feel like Debo Williams is ready? Do they feel like Mo Kaba is ready? There were times later in the year where they rotated them in a little bit more, but it was still pretty apparent they didn't quite think those guys were ready, or they would have been rotating them more. So you kind of hope, maybe with a full offseason now, that maybe they're able to do that this year and feel pretty good about it. There's been a couple of questions today, man. We're going to close this thing out. There's been a couple of questions about freshmen. Who plays, who redshirts, and then somebody said, is it far too early to know? Yes, it is too early to know, but, there's several guys you could probably already say will definitely redshirt. Several guys you could probably already say will play. The interesting thing about these days, Chris, is you can do the play for, and still redshirt. There's always going to be a few guys that you say, look, they can probably help this team a bit on special teams, but you want to preserve the extra year anyway. So I was trying to give an answer to this question. I'm trying to see a few. There's not as many freshman impacts anymore because of the transfers. So you have to take that into account. Looking through this list, I think Eamon Worry lock to play. Chris, lock.
I was almost a little bit surprised because our lock status is so, we try to reserve that for like there's absolutely no chance. Yeah, I think I'd still get there though.
Nicky, if healthy, dude,
4 games. Yeah,
he's playing. Let's see. Stone Blanton.
That's a tough one.
I know. Let's put each other on the spot here. He will play. So 4 games or more than 4 games. Stone Blanton.
I tend to play it conservatively with red shirts nowadays. I'm going to say under. At or under, I think he can preserve it.
So he'll play, but red shirt.
Yeah, and it's going to be close. No, I'm just kidding. But it might. I mean, you do try to get it close if you can, right? Like if you can, you want to get a guy in there for your 4 games and then no more, right? Let's keep so.
I'm going to say more. I'm going to say over.
Okay. I could easily, I'm like 51-49. And
yeah.
Close.
Which freshman defensive back has the best chance to go over 4 games that's not named Nicky Memori and not named DQ Smith?
Oh, you took both of those out? Goodness.
Yeah, so they're not a Midlands freshman DB. I'll even so you have Emory Floyd playing some corner, Anthony Rose playing some corner, Keenan Nelson Jr.
corner,
Kwan Banks.
And Peyton Williams. Kwan Banks, he's like almost forgotten. He got some love the other day.
He got a mention. He got the mention.
Oof. A lot of times what you can do is go through and you're like, this is like the lazy, like, see, who's the highest ranked? Like that type of thing, or like, where's the biggest need? Banks is kind of a sneaky pick because he's just like totally flying under the radar, but he got the mention, which means he's doing some good things. And then you look and he is a straight nickel, and you're one bang up away, and then you've got Spalding, who like was injured last year and they've been working him back in. Screw it. I'll just say Banks.
That's where my head was too, honestly. Like, and the funny thing is, among the DBs like that they signed, probably not the guy I would have said when they were signing, but that mention by Beamer, you cannot
Can't discount it. And I still think there's a good chance. I mean, what do we think? Good chance that that the non-Smith and Eamon DBs could all redshirt. Like, that would not be surprising. So I'm not even saying Banks won't redshirt. I just feel like he could end up playing the most. And I would not have said that if not for the mention.
Who's on the field next at corner after the starters? OD Fortune?
Would you get a Isaiah Norris?
Well, Isaiah Norris
Stepped in the bowl game, when I guess that was when Rush went down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is when I wish we were watching practice.
Well,
that's the type of stuff I look at and look for.
Your first option is, let's say you're playing. Let's just say they're playing matchups and they've got Rush and Dial outside and Cam Smith inside. Let's say one of the corners goes down where you're just moving Cam outside and then you're bringing in, a David Spalding to nickel. I think at that point you're best fiving it or whatever, or best three out of that group.
Yeah, well, and then it's going to depend on, are you higher on David Spalding at nickel or
Cam? True.
Yeah. Or no, are you higher on playing? If you're best fiving it, are you higher on OD Fortune
at corner? Yeah, or
Isaiah Norris at corner, or Spalding at nickel? Because you're gonna leave, like, if one of your three corners goes down, you're gonna leave Cam at nickel if you're higher on Norris or Fortune, or you're gonna slide him to corner and pull Spalding up.
Yeah,
basically. People are getting bored right now, I can tell. But
is there any guy on the 2022 list? So it seems like you think that Blanton, Eamon, and Smith have a good shot of avoiding a red shirt, or just not having a red shirt because they're going to play. Is there anybody else? Because for me,
defensively or in general, any of
them. Because I'll go ahead and give. I'm going to actually say no. I don't think. I would have said probably before the preseason and near, like before the transfer class, I would have said Landon Sampson is playing a lot.
Yeah.
And so this isn't any knock on him. Still really high on him, his ability, and even his ability to get into some games this year. But I think having that transfer class, I mean, 9 scholarship guys, and then Juice Miller, Lil Turbo, Dante Miller. So you really got 10 guys expected to contribute to your team, that take away those, kind of spots, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I see several guys that are in the plays 4 games or less category, but probably more like they do play 3 or 4. Like, they're going to get them on the field, but that they're going to maintain that red shirt. I mean, some of these guys will play some special teams, and then they'll use up a couple of their games on special teams, and they'll insert somebody else into that spot on special teams. And, but I think Blanton really could go either way. I think he could be like a full-time special, like a guy that you just are like, oh, this guy can really help on special teams. Let's play him there all year. I'm with you on Sampson. Now he's dealing with a little injury as well. Offensive lineman, probably all red shirt. Defensive tackles, probably red shirt. Let's see. Yeah, dude, I'm with you. The DBs will be interesting. Callie Corton, probably red shirts. Donovan Westmoreland would be interesting discussion.
Yeah, he would be. I still think he.
I'm with you. Lean red shirt.
Yeah.
All right. That's been an hour, y'all. Fun discussion. We may hit that again right before the season if anything's changed. Hey, maybe there's a guy, Chris, that we haven't realized has just started pushing out of that group, which would be cool. That'd be another storyline to talk about. I really, really like the athletic ability of Anthony Rose. when we saw him in camp, but we'll see. It always depends on injuries and depth at positions as well. It's not always about the player himself. It's about the situation. So awesome. That'll do it. Appreciate Brad for joining us. Appreciate Clint Hammond as always, our friend Larry at Liberty Tax. Appreciate y'all. We'll do this again. When, Chris?
We don't know. Let's not promise this week.
We don't make promises that we can't keep. Xavier McLeod, by the way, has moved his announcement to 6:30. Still a South Carolina-Georgia battle from everything I've heard. I think the Gamecocks are in the best position, but I'm telling y'all, you cannot completely discount Georgia. So we'll keep our eyes on that one, keep our ear to the ground, and we'll go from there. For Chris, I'm Wes. Y'all have a great one. We'll talk to you soon.